Guess what? The tallest buildings on Earth exist because people stopped being afraid of falling. Not steel, not concrete, not glass. Fear. For most of human history, going up was easy. Coming down safely was not. And until one invention solved that problem, cities were trapped sideways. A machine that reshaped how humans live, work, and decide what a good view is worth. This is Guess What, where everyday technology turns out to be doing way more than you think. Before elevators, buildings already had multiple floors, but they weren't organized the way you'd expect. In most cities, the top floors were the worst. Why? Because stairs are work. Climbing them every day meant exhaustion, sweat, and time. So wealth flowed down, not up. The rich lived on lower floors. The poor lived near the top. In Paris, for example, upper floors were often cheaper and less desirable, a complete reversal of modern luxury living. Height wasn't prestige. Height was punishment. And this pattern stayed in place for centuries, not because humans lacked ambition, but because gravity always won. Of course, humans had ways to lift things long before elevators. By the ancient world, people already understood the core mechanics of vertical lifting, using ropes, pulleys, counterweights, inclines, and leverage. The existence of massive structures like the Great Pyramid of Giza or the Colosseum doesn't require lost super technology or aliens with anti-gravity beams. It required simple machines, immense planning, and an uncomfortable amount of human labor. Stone wasn't lifted straight into the air like a movie effect. It was dragged, rolled, levered, and raised step by step, sometimes over years. No mystery, no shortcuts. Just humans doing hard things the hard way. Ancient Rome, in particular, pushed lifting technology further than most civilizations. Roman engineers used treadwheel cranes, giant human-powered wheels that multiplied lifting force. Complex pulley systems based on principles described by Archimedes, and heavy-duty hoists capable of lifting multi-ton stone blocks. Inside the Colosseum itself, Romans even built primitive elevators. Beneath the arena floor was the Hypogeum, a maze of corridors, cages, and lift platforms. Animals, scenery, and gladiators were hoisted upward through trapdoors, using rope and pulley systems powered by teams of slaves. It worked. But if a rope snapped, that platform didn't slow down. It didn't wobble. It didn't give you time to reconsider your life choices. It fell. Fast. Uncontrolled. Final. And that was precisely the issue. Early lifting platforms were death traps, which meant lifting people vertically was terrifying and usually avoided. This is why early elevators existed mainly in mines, warehouses, and factories, places where risk was tolerated. Fast forward to the late early 1800s, human and animal power finally gets replaced by something much stronger: steam. Around this time, the industrial world was facing a big problem. Mines were getting deeper, and hauling ore by hand or animals was slow, exhausting, and very dangerous. The answer came in the form of steam engines. Slap one of them onto a hoisting system, and presto, problem solved. They could pull massive loads vertically, operate continuously, and outwork any human crew. But these systems were open platforms, thick ropes or chains, no safety brakes, and no redundancy. Just like the lifts of the ancients, they ran into the same issue. If something failed, the load go bye-bye. As a result, these steam hoists were primarily used to move coal, rocks, and iron, not people. Then, in the mid-1800s, engineers like Sir William Armstrong helped push heavy lifting into a new era by developing hydraulic machinery, including cranes powered by pressurized water systems, which made controlled lifting in docks and industrial settings far more practical and scalable. But even with better power systems, the central fear remained the same. If the support failed, gravity didn't negotiate. Around this same period, Henry Waterman enters the story. His contribution was to take steam-powered hoists and turn them into something closer to a true elevator. A defined platform, a controlled vertical path, and a system meant to operate inside buildings, not just industrial pits. But there was still a problem. These steam elevators were loud, jerky, and mechanically unforgiving. And, crucially, they still had no reliable safety system. If a cable snapped, well, you know. So Waterman's elevators were used, just not by people who valued their lives. Steam had now industrialized vertical motion. What it still hadn't done was make anyone feel safe stepping inside. And then it all changed. One man dared to answer the question, what if the elevator didn't fall, even if the rope broke? That idea is most famously demonstrated by Elisha Otis. In 1854 AD, Otis publicly demonstrated a safety brake system that would stop a platform from falling if its hoisting rope failed. He stood on a platform, had the rope cut, and didn't die. That was the real invention. Not vertical movement, but trust. Once people believed an elevator wouldn't kill them, everything else followed. Otis had now made elevators safe. And that distinction matters, because safety changes behavior. Suddenly, hotels could go higher, office buildings could stack workers, and apartments could rise vertically. The elevator didn't just move people, it rearranged value. Upper floors stopped being cheap. They became desirable, quiet, bright, exclusive. This is when height flips from burden to luxury. There's a common misconception that skyscrapers came first and elevators followed. It's the opposite. Without elevators, skyscrapers are useless. Nobody wants to climb 20 flights of stairs twice a day. The modern city, dense, vertical, stacked, depends on elevators functioning reliably, constantly, invisibly. Every major skyscraper boom follows elevator innovation, faster systems, safer brakes, and better control. Steel lets you build high. Elevators let you use it. Elevators don't just move bodies, they change how people interact. Think about it. You stand inches from strangers, in silence, avoiding eye contact, facing the wrong direction. There are unspoken rules. Don't talk, don't stare. Pretend you're alone together, and, well, you know. Elevators created one of the strangest social spaces humans tolerate daily. They compress time, distance, and personal boundaries, briefly, then release you back into normal life. That's not an accident. That's design meeting psychology. Here's a fun fact. In many buildings, the close door button doesn't actually shorten the door cycle during normal operation, largely due to accessibility timing requirements. So press it once, twice, or mash it like you're trying to throw a Hadouken with Ryu. It won't make any difference. Either way, the button gives riders a sense of control, because waiting without agency feels worse than waiting with something to press. Elevators are so normal that we forget how much we rely on them. until they break. When elevators stop, office buildings lose productivity, hospitals face logistical challenges, and high-rise residents become isolated. In emergencies, elevators become liabilities, which is why fire safety rules often restrict their use. A city built vertically is only as functional as its ability to move people up and down safely. Elevators are infrastructure, not convenience. Before elevators, the wealthy lived low. After elevators, the wealthy moved up. Penthouse apartments exist because elevators exist. Views became commodities. Height became status. Distance from the street became privilege. Elevators didn't just lift people, they lifted entire classes, literally. Modern elevators are engineering marvels. Redundant safety systems, advanced braking, and computer-controlled routing. Failures are rare, which is why fear of elevators today is largely psychological, not rational. Statistically, serious passenger incidents are rare, and many fatalities/injuries in elevator statistics involve workers, shafts, maintenance, or non-routine situations. And that safety is the quiet legacy of a 19th century trust problem being solved properly. Elevators suffer from a unique curse. When they work perfectly, no one notices them. When they don't, everyone does. They're the ultimate background technology, and background technologies are usually the ones doing the most work. There's another quiet way elevators changed the world: time. Before elevators, vertical movement was slow and exhausting. Stairs imposed limits. Elevators erased that friction. Suddenly, vertical movement became fast, repetitive, routine. Departments stacked instead of spread out. People moved between floors multiple times a day. Distance stopped being measured in steps and started being measured in seconds. This is why modern office culture works at all. Elevators introduced something new: surrendering control. Once the doors close, you're not choosing the path. The system decides. Early riders found this unsettling. Elevators trained humans to trust automated movement long before subways, escalators, or airports. Press a button. The system handles the rest. That idea becomes foundational to modern life. Elevators regulate access. Key cards, restricted floors, private elevators, hidden service shafts. Before elevators, barriers were physical. After elevators, barriers became silent. You're not blocked, you're just not authorized. That's modern power. Invisible, efficient, built into the building. Elevators didn't just change architecture. They changed cities, economics, social class, daily behavior. They turned height into value, trust into infrastructure, fear into routine. And they did it quietly. So the next time you step into an elevator and press a button without thinking, remember, you're standing inside the invention that made modern cities possible. That's today's episode of Guess What? If you enjoyed walking carefully through history with me, hit subscribe, because next time, who knows what we'll uncover. Until then, stay curious and enjoy the ride.